Nice to see you again. I'm Elizabeth Michelson. I live in the Potomac district. As we heard, last weekend, homes were targeted with KKK flyers in Brentsville, here in Prince William County. This is totally unacceptable. Last year, a church in Dumfries was also defaced with KKK graffiti. A group of concerned constituents went to that church to express their solidarity with the church members, with the hope that our Board of Supervisors would do the same. But you never went there. This time, you can no longer ignore what's happening around our county. The idea that white supremacy and hateful rhetoric towards families in our diverse neighborhoods is again showing its ugly head is something we have to rise up against and quickly denounce. It has to be nipped in the bud so it cannot proliferate. Our children should have the right to grow up in peace in our neighborhoods. Hate and discrimination are learned behaviors. That means they can be unlearned, but we have to put our full energy into teaching our children love and inclusion. As Board of Supervisors, you are held to a very high standard, and we expect that you take exception to the KKK and its bad influence in our community. Our county is now a minority-majority county. Every fifth person living here was born outside of the United States. As chairperson of the Democratic Immigrant Caucus of the Democratic Committee of Prince William County, I urge our Board of Supervisors to firmly denounce the KKK attempts to infiltrate our neighborhoods, to spread their toxic belief system. Instead, our Board of Supervisors has to always stand for equality and inclusion and the well-being and acceptance of all people living here so that we can have peace and harmony in our county. President Roosevelt stated, "We are a nation of many nationalities, many races, many religions, bound together by a single unity, the unity of freedom and equality. Whoever seeks to set one nationality against another seeks to degrade all nationalities." Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carter?
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Langston Carter, and I'm the founder and president of the Youth Initiative for National Action. We are a student group in Prince William County taking on issues such as racism, religious discrimination, and the flaws in our education system. I've spoken here before, but today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to tell you a story. During the 1950s in Warren County, not too far from here, Betty Kilby and her family fought to desegregate Warren County High School. She was 13 at the time. She served as a plaintiff in the case of Betty Ann Kilby v. Warren County Board of Education, one of the many landmark cases that happened hand in hand with the Brown case. I'm not going to read you all the information about this case, but I'm going to tell you a little bit of what happened during it. Betty's father decided he wanted his children to grow up with the same advantages as white students. The KKK didn't appreciate that. Throughout the proceedings, their livestock was mutilated, crosses were burned in their yard, hammers were thrown through the air at their heads, elevator shafts were rigged to open without the lift being present, and all because they wanted equality. Despite this, the Kilbys continued to fight because they knew that their work was important. They took part in a movement that helped people across the country. It's because of their leadership that we are not forcing black students into separate schools. Separate but equal is never actually equal. This is the kind of hatred and bigotry that Janine Lawson and Corey Stewart have encouraged in our community. They've made it comfortable. So now I ask you, members of the board, what are you going to do about it? We elected you to serve us. It's time for you to take action. I don't want to hear y'all talk about how it's not in your jurisdiction. At the end of the day, we are all one Prince William County, and there should be a separate statement from each of you denouncing this activity. Each of you should be visiting the people of this neighborhood. Betty Kilby is my cousin. My family has fought for equality and civility and prosperity for all people throughout the state of Virginia for generations. And we haven't let the Klan get in our way, and I'm sure as hell not going to start letting them now. Thank you.
My name is Stephen Rakin, and I'm a proud member of the Democratic Party of Prince William County and the Occoquan Magisterial District of the party. I'm an attorney, and I think it's telling that yesterday, July 9th, 1868, was the 150th anniversary of the ratification of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. That Constitution, that amendment, was dedicated to the proposition that there should be equal justice under the law and that no state had the right to deprive anyone of their rights under the Constitution without due process of law. And emblazoned over the marble of the beautiful Supreme Court that we're all so proud of in Washington is the phrase, equal justice under law. And yet, and yet here we are, 150 years and one day later, and it's as if we're right back to the height of the post-Civil War Reconstruction period, when lynchings and all kinds of denial of due process under law and equal justice of law were the coin of the realm throughout our county and throughout Virginia and throughout not only the former Confederacy, but every state in the United States. We're very proud, all of us, to be Americans because it's these principles of the law and of our beloved Constitution that differentiate our country from so many other dictatorial regimes around the world. And yet, whoever did this yesterday in Mrs. Lawson's district, and appreciate the comments of Ms. Lawson and Mr. Coles, obviously deliberately chose yesterday to make that statement. We are all Americans, whether we're Republican or Democrat or independent or agnostic or Christian or Jewish or Muslim or whatever, we are all Americans, and those of us who live in Prince William County are all proud members of this county. We will not tolerate, and the board should never tolerate, this kind of throwback to 1868 and the era of slavery that preceded it. And so we're very grateful to all of your service, to the people of Prince William County, and it's time to stand up and say, never again, never again.
Ms. Brumar.
First, I have a gift for all of you. Do I just give it to them?
If you can hand it to the clerk, that'd be great.
My name's Evelyn Brumar, and Burnsville is my district. First, I came here to thank all of you for what you did a few weeks ago for passing the proclamation stating that Prince William County is a hate-free and bigot-free zone. I also want to thank some of you for the courage you took and that extra step of passing June as LGBTQ Pride Month. It really sends a message that you do not stand for hate for any member of our county and any member of this Commonwealth. And it means so much to me and to the LGBT community and the minority communities out there. Thank you so much for that. Which brings me to my second point. We're still dealing with hate. The message isn't strong enough, and it isn't to the point and clear and direct. I know that we can make these general statements and be kind of safe behind them and make a point, but if you're not directing them to a specific group or directing it to a group that you can want to protect, that you know are targets, it doesn't mean anything. We all come from love. You can lead from love. I've seen you lead from love. You did that a few weeks ago, and I appreciate that, and I felt it, and it meant so much to me and to a lot of other people. Can you please do it again? Can you lead from love? Identify those hate groups. Tell them that nobody in this county, no matter what they look like, what they believe, who they love, they will be protected, and you will fight for them. And that's what I ask. Any minority group, any group that's being oppressed, please, please, we're moving in that direction anyways. Just please push it further along so that we can be united, so that we can help each other and not be divided, and also that we can support you all, even though we don't support everything you guys decide on, but we can still support you because we know that you're coming from a place of love and a place that you embrace all of the community. Thank you.
Ready? My name is Maggie Hansford. I'm in the Brentsville district, and the KKK came to my house this weekend. It was nice that you put a post on Facebook, Ms. Lawson, 2 hours before the meeting. I was hoping that something would have happened earlier. My neighborhood has been distraught and a lot of emotions going through, and so we were hoping for leadership and maybe a conversation. It would have been nice if you would have communicated to our subdivision. So literature was handed out in our yards in New Bristow Village in the Brentsville district. As neighbors found these packets in their yards, our community began having a conversation within the neighborhood Facebook page, and you know what happens then, right? So if the KKK's efforts were intended to divide and embolden hate, it worked. Neighbors were outraged and quickly went to political arguments. The KKK almost achieved this goal, and it divided and encouraged open racism within my neighborhood. Neighbors continued conversation, and in the end, the hate-filled posts by individuals stopped, with people stepping up and saying enough is enough. Everyday people stood up and said hate has no home here. Not in our neighborhood, not in our county. Our community ultimately used the birdseed to feed the birds, recycled the hateful literature, contacted the police, and had productive dialogue to move forward. As an educator, an active volunteer in my neighborhood, a mom, I need you all to lead just like my community members did this weekend. Hate has no home in Brentsville, in Prince William County, and Virginia, and our country. We must look to you all to continue to denounce hate as long as hate is in our community. Until the hate is gone, you have to denounce them. And not wait, but when it happens. It's sad that we had to wait for so long to see any sort of post, and let it be on Facebook or not, it was a post, and I know that, you know, local news outlets did reach out to you all, and not a single comment was to be had. So Bristow Beat ran an article on Monday with no comment. So, all right, so the last meeting, it was said that Ms. Lawson's connected to a hate group, on the board of directors of a hate group. Our chairman can't stop talking about the Confederate flag. This isn't a coincidence this happened in my neighborhood. This is a consequence. This is a consequence of all of this behavior, and it needs to stop. What happened this weekend was I had a conversation with my boys about the KKK, my boys. What didn't happen was a conversation with you all, with your constituents. That didn't happen. And we all came here today to ask for it to happen. Why do we have to come to ask for it to happen? Why are we having to wait to lead? So if you would have came to my neighborhood, I am a member of our HOA, and we were having an HOA board meeting tonight. It would have been nice for you to have that dialogue, so maybe you could have came and spoke to our community.
I'd be happy to attend tonight. Okay. Next up, we have Tricia Sutherland, Christy Eak, Melissa Ridge, Kenny Bodie, and Gloria Jordan.
Hi, my name is Tricia Sutherland. I'm from the Brentsville district. I was raised in a Christian conservative household. My dad is a U.S. Army veteran and also was a naval reservist, volunteer firefighter. My mom was a nurse. Both of them were active in their parish and their community. They are the type of people that I feel are what make this country great. And I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot about right and wrong. I learned a lot about, in the face of radicalism, reasonability is important. When an example being when the NRA transformed from an organization that promoted gun safety and responsibility to one that was radical and fear-based in their narrative, my father wrote to them and said, "This is why I am rescinding my lifelong membership." It was the difference between right and wrong. It was about being reasonable. Now, there's no doubt that Christians and conservatives alike can easily see the wrong in white supremacy and the evil behind the work of the KKK. In preparation for their rally in DC, they've come to Prince William County, the Brentsville District, my neighborhood, my home, to spread their hate and their lies. On August 12, 2017, Chairman Stewart responded to the violence and killing at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. This was an opportunity for Mr. Stewart to do what was right, condemn the wrong, and unite his constituency against hate by being reasonable. Instead, Mr. Stewart blamed the media. He blamed the left. He blamed liberals. He blamed the so-called crackdown on conservative speech. This is the very same reasoning that landed on my doorsteps from the KKK as to the decline of this country. August 12, 2017 is also the day I sent my letter asking that I no longer receive any emails from Mr. Stewart's. Instead of condemning the hatred, the violence, the murder that took place, Mr. Stewart flaunted opportunism that opened the door for the KKK to come to Prince William County, the Brentsville District, and my home. At this time, I ask that the board do the right thing, condemn the wrong, and be reasonable. I personally hold Chairman Stewart accountable for fostering these events. No more showboating, no more grandstanding for negative attention. You've gotten the negative attention. It's here, and it's affecting people. I ask the board to motion for Mr. Stewart's removal. His behavior is a blight on this community, for conservatives, and for what's right and reasonable. He represents the wrong, as much as the seeds of hate that landed on my doorstep. If you really believe that you are against hate, this is the action you should take. Stand up. Thank you.
Is it Christy Black? I realize now it's Black, isn't it?
I was sloppy.
It's not Christy B.E.
I
Black makes
answered-
so much more sense. Go ahead.
I answered anything. So I'm Christy Black, and I live in the Brentsville District, and I'll keep this short. I just want to say that it is always our responsibility to speak out against racism. It is always our responsibility as white people to acknowledge and be aware of our privilege and the injustices that people of color experience every day. I may not always be aware of my privilege, but it is always there. I'm statistically less likely to be incarcerated, less likely to be a victim of police brutality, less likely to be poor or undereducated. Racism still exists in our communities and in our schools. My children have told me stories about incidents that happen. It happens a lot. We know it happens. The incident proves that we have a long way to go, and we need to be active. Unless we all speak out and work to end white supremacy, then we are all complicit in the damage that it does to us and our communities. Thank you.
Melissa Ridge?
Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Ridge. I'm a mom and an educator, and I live in the Occoquan District. I am not a public speaker. About 30 years ago, I left George Mason in Fairfax one night with a couple of friends trying to get to DC, and we got lost. We got really lost. We ended up in Brentsville. There were 3 young women, 2 black, 1 white, on a long, twisting country roads, passing Confederate flags in the back of pickup trucks, and we started joking to each other about being in Klan country. A little more than 5 years later, I moved to Prince William. The same year I moved, the Brentsville District High School's baseball team was stripped of their state title after it was discovered that they had a tradition of drawing a KKK symbol in the dirt before each game for good luck. This is not new. How you react in 2018 may very well define to the rest of the state and the rest of the country who we are, because the entire country is watching us right now. When I first moved to Prince William County, we were known for our parks, the battlefields, and the Potomac Mills sign. We are now known for the chairman of our county board. I don't know if you saw the Rolling Stone article yesterday, but he was named one of the top 8 bigots in the country running for office right now. I understand that he denounced some of his friendships with known white supremacists recently, like right before the primaries. That announcement came very late and was very hasty and very convenient for him. I appreciate those on the board who have spoken out against Stewart's rhetoric, but most of you have remained silent. And in that silence, you are confirming to your constituents, to the state, and to the country that this is who we are. You can speak all you want about being an anti-bigot, anti-hate county, but as long as he sits up there, your actions are not showing that. I move also, please, he needs to be removed. I'm waiting for the rest of you to break that silence, to remove him from this board, to speak out, to make this a community that doesn't welcome hate and that isn't a comfortable place for the Klan and other white supremacists. Thank you.
Good afternoon, board members, fellow citizens of Prince William County. My name is Kenny Bodie, and I reside in the Occoquan Magisterial District. I also wanted to speak about the white supremacist KKK activity that's been pervasive in our community since at least last year, if not sooner. It was already spoken about the defacing of the Dumfries Church. Most folks have not remembered, but last year, our district, the Occoquan district, had that swastika that was put up at that school, and now we have the KKK again in Gainesville and Brentsville. I come to you today not with a bleeding heart, but a blazing one, because the blood that runs through my veins is the blood of slaves that was brought here to Virginia over 200 years ago. Enough of their blood, enough of their descendants' blood has already been shed. We here are at a moment where we have an opportunity to once again stand up against hatred, not in wide swath, broad strokes, but in very specific, unadulterated outrage. Again, we appreciate the fact that a couple weeks ago you guys once again affirmed that Prince William County is an anti-hate, anti-bigotry zone. But my compatriots already talked about the fact that you have to be very specific when it comes to hatred. When it comes to the KKK and their ilk, they will look at any opportunity to thrive where there is silence and there is space for their monstrousness. But the problem is that in this county, as some of the previous speakers said before me, it is not just silence or space. They are encouraged. Our chairman, who I hate the fact that he's not here today, because I would say this to him regardless if he's here or not, has been provoking this kind of behavior for a long time, and he has not stopped that. Last year, as was stated, he went down to Charlottesville and strummed up just the very same hatred that we're seeing here this year, this week. He associates himself closely to these kinds of people. He lets them work on his campaigns. He takes money from them. He encourages them. I would not be surprised if he didn't stand alongside them next month when they have their next hate rally in Washington, D.C. Each and every one of you has an opportunity now to differentiate yourself from him. I ask you to do so again. Speak against not only their hatred in no uncertain terms, but to speak against him, Chairman Corey Stewart, and make sure that you, like us, want to push for him to be removed from office. And I hope that you'll join us in making sure that he does not hold any elected position ever again. You cannot change people's hearts necessarily. You cannot change the cycles of violence that are outside your control. You cannot change other people's actions. Neither can you change the actions of the past. But you have a chance right now to start to break that cycle. I suggest you start now. Thank you.
Mrs. Jordan is next, and after Mrs. Jordan, any other citizens who would like to please speak up, just line up behind this young lady right here.
Hi, I'm Gloria Jordan, and I'm part of Coles. The flyer that was distributed through the county was obviously deplorable. It was meant to be a scare tactic to communities of color, as well as a recruitment to ignorant white nationalists. That type of hateful speech is not only full of lies, but it's fear-mongering attempt to break up the unity that beautifully diverse Prince William County thrives on. I implore each of you to widely denounce this to each of your constituents. Thank you, Supervisor Lawson, for your prompt response and leadership. Unlike the current individual who sits in the Oval Office, you quickly denounced these actions and immediately contacted local authorities to find the perpetrators of such hate. Your demand for justice moved you and your tenacious team to work with both local and federal enforcement. You pressed them to scour footage from cameras in an attempt to identify cars, license plates, and eyewitnesses to stop this kind of recruitment. I am grateful for allies like yourself that use their influence to protect those that are bullied, falsely accused, and vilified. You seek equality and demand justice, and for that I thank you. And I would implore all of you to follow in her footsteps. I know Chairman Stewart isn't here today, as he's probably off campaigning on taxpayer dollars, but perhaps he's listening along with his supporters. Chairman Stewart, as long as you run on the Confederate flag and the pain and hate it represents, I will never, ever support you. You do not represent me, and you do not represent our community. You will never again represent me here in Prince William County, and you certainly will never represent me in the Senate. I will do everything in my power to actively campaign against you. Let it be known your political days are numbered. I implore each of you to remove him.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your dedicated service to our county, to each and every one of you. Today, it seems evident that there...
If you just give us your name and where you live in the
sure.
county.
I'm Rebecca Perkins. I live in the Gainesville district.
Thank you.
Sure. So today, it seems that there are two imperative sentiments to be addressed. First, that the one who states his case first, or most often, perhaps in this case, seems right until the other comes and examines him. With the flood of misinformation, including an article in Inside Nova involving alleged flyer distribution in my district, it appears that an incredible narrative is actively being established in Virginia. It's simple to hurl accusations and assign blame, but today the point is to document the facts, that the facts are unknown. The parties involved allegedly arrived under the cover of night without making themselves known to the residents of Carver Road, Harlingen Way, and Maracaibo Court, which is where I spent my morning. I took the time today and I spoke with the residents during the bright sunlit hours of this day, and I asked them what they had seen and what they had heard, and if it's okay with everybody present, I'd like to read some of the things that were said to me today. So I spoke with one gentleman whose family has owned land there since they received the land after being emancipated slaves, and he said, it's baloney. There would be no KKK recruiting on Carver Road because it's an African-American establishment after slavery. There's been no racial problems here, white or black, we have gotten along together in this community. There's been no KK over here. Attention being brought to Carver Road probably has more to do with some of the power line stuff than anything else. He said, this is our land. We live in it and we live our lives. No violence, we're quiet, and we're a tight-knit community. Further, another gentleman, he saw nothing, he didn't see anybody around. Another lady who's lived there, she's been married to her husband for 61 years, and she reported she saw nothing, she received nothing. And then I had the blessing and the privilege to meet a gentleman who is a reverend, and he's lived in that community for years. He pastored a church here. And I asked him, what have you seen, or what do you think is happening? He said, I saw nothing, but let me tell you, keep your high beams on. That way you can see what is coming at you. I spoke with another couple. He saw nothing. He didn't receive anything. I spoke with the detective who was also canvassing the neighborhood this morning, and she said people haven't seen anything. They haven't heard anything. I spoke with another woman. She's a young Hispanic mom I'm not Hispanic, but she's a young mother like myself, single mother, business owner, raising her children there. She was horrified to hear about this, but she said, I'll be honest with you. I saw nothing. I received nothing. Another, an Asian gentleman who served in our military, same exact story. I saw nothing, I heard nothing. And then people all along the way just saw nothing, heard nothing. I spoke with the people who lived in Hopewell Development, who lived right on where it enters right onto Carver Road. They saw no literature, they saw nobody there. So I don't know what to say except they themselves stated that they did not see anyone dropping literature. They received no flyers. And if I asked multiple people, I gave them my numbers. If you have seen this, please show me what you see. I guess I ran out of time. But thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you. Start coming down.
Hi, my name is Tom McIntyre. I live in Manassas. On Friday, in my job, I am a legislative aide for a delegate in the area. I was alerted to something in the city of Manassas, similar. A group called Patriot Front was posting flyers across the city of Manassas in many homeowners association public bulletin boards and at a gas station on the corner of Wellington and Liberia. So imagine my shock when I get a call on Monday, or actually yesterday, saying that the same thing had happened in Bristow, an area that I have a lot of close ties into. We stand not but 30 miles from the site of the last lynching in Northern Virginia by the KKK in Fauquier County. We stand not but not even that, about 20 miles from Loudoun County, where the last time this very specific thing happened. And so I think that it's vital now that we really reinforce the idea that white supremacy is not welcome in Prince William County. It has been in the past, but it shouldn't be in the future. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I hope that in the future you guys really start having this conversation with your elected officials and your administration now to make sure that in the future this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tiziana Bottino. I reside in the Neosco district. I also wanted to denounce the KKK propaganda in our county. When we think back on historical events such as World War II, we can instantly recognize the Nazis as the enemy, the bad guys, a symbol of the evil and hatred in this world. And the entire country recognized this fact when we helped defeating them. So why can't we do the same when the same kind of hatred is spread in our homes today? Have we learned nothing from history? Why are we repeating the same mistakes? We're allowing this to happen. I have a 3-year-old girl, a 3-year-old daughter, and a 1-year-old son, and they're biracial. And I should not fear for their future. I should not fear for their safety out there. I should not feel that there is people out there that want nothing but hurt them. And that we and that you are allowing that to happen by just stay silent and complacent, do nothing, especially the chairman, who is not even here today. As long as people like Corey Stewart will be allowed to be here, to run this county, to be spouting hatreds and that kind of propaganda, to side with the KKK and Confederate flags, I will not feel safe for my children, for my husband, who is African American. So this is not acceptable in 2018. I feel like we should have learned the lessons decades ago. Why are we back here? So I plead with you to take action to make us feel safer, especially for our children. So please take action, and I call for the removal of Corey Stewart also. Thank you.
And with that, we're going to close citizens' time.